Hello and welcome to day two. This is our first session for day two of the Amplify Her Live virtual summit. And I am so pumped. I just can't even contain the excitement that I have that women have literally shown up across the globe to inspire you, to encourage you, to empower you. And today it's all about increasing your voice. So, our featured guest panelists that you're going to see, our featured guest speakers, y'all, I already gave y'all the heads up last time. I said, grab your notepad, get ready. Another speaker shared this too, and I definitely can say this. I've watched the panel sessions already like multiple times because there are so many nuggets that you can get. So today is no different. We have a powerful panel, and it starts coming from. I like to have everyone share where they're coming from, so I won't say it. I'll let them say it. But our first guest panelist, again, today is all about increasing your voice, and she helps to market your business like no one else. And when I think about what people help with, I'm always mindful if they're executing it themselves and how can they translate that to others. She gets an A+ in my book. She is executing marketing. She shows up for other people. She is an award winning in many different fields. And I'm excited to bring up first Latoya Scott. How are you doing today, Latoya?
Good. How are you? I'm so happy to be here.
Yes,
So
I'm so
happy to be
happy to
here.
have you. So, can you tell us where you're coming in from and what our attendees can expect to hear from you about today?
So, I am calling in from Okinawa, Japan. It is after there's a little after 10 p.m. here, so not too late. And I will be I specialize in event development, branding, and marketing. And as you stated, I do a lot more, but that's really where I focus on, and I help other businesses grow in those areas. So a lot of times I get people who are event planners or want to do an event for their company. They just don't know how to do it correctly. And so that's where I come in and I say, okay, this is how we get to do it. This is what we're going to do. This is going to be awesome for you. It's going to showcase who you are, what you're about, and what you're doing for the community. And then it all rolls into me also creating marketing and branding packages for those individuals as well.
I love it. And I believe that having a signature event is so key when we think about
Oh,
how we're going to expand our business, and get our voice out
mhm.
there. Another thing that's key, it's a special kind of event. And this event determines who you're going to be doing your forever life with, relationship. So our next guest, she is the epitome of love. And I love that about her, that she just exudes authenticity, love, and helps you to hone in on that. I think one of the most important decisions you can make in your business, especially for those of us in relationships. So welcome with me. I'm going to call her the love doctor. I don't know if she goes by that. But she's such a powerhouse. Maria, how are you doing today?
Good morning. Good morning. And I'm coming from Las Vegas, Nevada. So great place and wedding capital of the world. So welcome everybody. And yes, I have to tell you, Erica, and nice to meet you, Latoya, and the other panelists.
Hello.
Hi. It's really so important when you think about love. And because I love what I do, marrying couples, that's what I do in Vegas. I teach a course how to do what I do because there are people that are looking to do something else that want to really impact other people's lives, have fun, and you know what, get paid for it, which is wonderful. So there's nothing better than coming into somebody's circle, that special day, that magic is happening. You are actually the person that's the heart of it when you think of it. But when you talk about love, and then love as far as romantic love, we have professional love, we have romantic love. I'm a widow, so I've been a widow for 11 years, and I got back in the dating world, which we can always talk about later on. But let me tell you something, it kicked my butt, and I started teaching about that because we do, sometimes we put blinders
Mhm.
on and we think from the waist down instead of the waist up, and that's important. You're making a decision because you want that forever. You want that forever, and it's important to walk into it with your eyes wide open. So you want to walk into
Yes.
love, not call it love. But thank you.
I love that. Oh, I love that. I love that. Y'all have been giving me so many t-shirt worthy quotes. Walk into love, don't fall in it. I love that. And speaking of loving, I think this person epitomizes how to love yourself, how to be confident, how to let that inner queen out so that when you do show up, people have no choice but to love you too. So welcome, Powerhouse. She is the queen. Like we were calling yesterday, one of our speakers, April, start calling everyone queens. I'm like, this is the queen of queens coming
Oh,
up here.
yes.
Dr. Shantae Haynes, how are you doing?
Well, hello, beautiful. And I tell everyone when I speak to women, I say hello, beautiful. One, because we don't hear it enough and we don't recognize who we are. But that's just the way I like to greet you. I am Dr. Shantae Haynes. The name of my company is Heart to Heart Truth Ministries, because I'm going to definitely tell you the truth, but everything comes from the heart to start with. And I define my story as, I was one of those people, and most of us have been there, where we have this identity crisis. And I fell into it with so many things that were happening in life. When life unravels, we tend to kind of step back, cower back, and our voice is not heard. But what I do is I make sure that women then are going to come out of it, whether they're devastated by divorce. I was one of those people after 36 years. That's a long time. I know I'm only 40,
Wow.
so God still works miracles. But, my children were moving out. I was a new empty nester at the time. I lost my job as a theology professor because COVID hit and we weren't meeting in person. And it was like my human doing and my human being were two different things. And so, yes, I do help women to reinvent themselves. Well, first they have to reframe their story, then they reinvent themselves and they reimagine their future. So that's what I like to talk about today, because I dare you to unleash your inner queen.
Yeah.
I got my crown.
Yes.
Ready.
Okay.
Always ready.
I'm ready. I love this. And so I'm going to start with you three. We do have some other powerhouses that are backstage. So y'all, you just never know who's going to come out and how it's going to shift your life. So that's the reason you need to stay on the live like the entire time. But I want to start with this because when it comes to increasing our voice, I believe that starts within. Because in order for us to show up and have that confidence to speak or say what we want, to your point, Latoya, to market ourselves, as you say, Dr. Shantae, even to stand in our truth and be able to hear the truth. And Maria, you hit the nail on the head. Getting back in the dating scene is not for the faint of heart. Like, how do we develop those standards, and have that confidence to go get what we desire, what we deserve, and what we know we're called to. So that's what I want to start with. When it comes to increasing your voice, it starts with confidence. So Latoya, let's start with you. What would you say when it comes to marketing? Is there like a encouragement that you give your clients where they can get that confidence to maximize the packages that you have?
Yes. One of the things you're going to need is confidence. Being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. Let's talk about that. And so there are going to be times where you are hit left and right with everything you can imagine, and you're going to feel like you're alone. And I forgot who it was that talked about this yesterday, but you're going to feel like you are all alone and that you are just in this by yourself. And as entrepreneurs, you get this feeling and you're like, okay, what do I do? How do I do this? I'm ready to quit. And a lot of times it's that confidence that you will need and do need in order to keep going. And by having a strong marketing package, it helps you to have that footprint. So when you are in that down stage, because there are ups and downs being an entrepreneur. So when you are in that down stage, when you have a footprint, you can be down for a day, go ahead, eat your bonbons, sit on the couch, binge watch something for a little bit, but then get up and go ahead and keep following that blueprint. But when you don't have a blueprint to follow, it's like, what do you do? Now you feel overwhelmed. You don't have anything to go off. You don't know where to start, where to finish, what to do. And it just becomes this like ripple effect of like, okay, I'm already down and out. I don't have a footprint. I don't know where to start. I might as well just go ahead and quit.
Yes, that is so important too. Like, because I feel like clarity is one of the biggest blocks to confidence. When we're unclear, like, of course you can't show up confident because I don't know why I'm showing up. I don't know what I'm trying to get y'all to do or anything of that nature. And shout out to Wanda and Ruby, who both talked about how you said the aloneness. yesterday, like going through those
Mhm.
seasons of aloneness and
Yes.
being okay. So I want to swing. Yeah, I'm going to swing the mic to you, Maria. I would love for you to talk about that too, like the importance of confidence to love and stand for what we desire, even executing events.
Well, first of all, what Latoya was saying and Dr. Haynes was talking about was so important as far as finding clarity in your brand. But Dr. Haynes really hit on the key thing is what happens. And you talked about you're divorced after 36 years. I was married 33 years. There's almost like a foreclosure identity that occurs on yourself. And I think that's the key thing we need to remember is we focus so much on being a mom, right? And being a good wife or, husband, whatever it is. And we lose ourselves. And I think that's the key thing is you have to bring yourself back to self to really work on who you are and to be able and building up confidence is not easy. And sometimes you're going to have other people like Latoya said that are not going to back you on what you want to do. So you have to make a decision. First of all, you got to pray. That's what I believe. Listen to your heart. That's the first thing you need with confidence. Do not look at social media because comparison is a thief of joy. Throw it out. It's not going to serve
Yes.
purpose. Okay. So that's the next thing. And then make sure you're surrounding yourself, besides God and God's love, with people that are going to not just tell you, hey, move forward, but surround yourself with people that are going to level you up. Find the right coaches, find the right mentors. And then one bonus, let me throw in, there are days you're going to not want to get out of bed. Don't do that to yourself. Get your rear end out of bed because you're putting money in the bank when you move forward. Every time you take a step backwards, you're making a withdrawal. So that's what I have to say about confidence.
Listen, just dropping mics like that, left and right, Maria, just dropping those mics. I love it. Dr. Shante, I see you nodding your head. I know you have some good insight. So talk to us about the confidence.
I mean, everybody on the panel so far has hit my story, and I'm sure they're hitting the audience's story too. Because, like Latoya said, I went through 3 attorneys in order to get my divorce final. And there was a moment where I was binge watching on Netflix. I was like, I can't do this again. After that second one quit, and I'm like, what? It was April Fool's Day, and I'm like, okay, but I'm moving forward. But you're absolutely right. Sometimes you have to take a quick break. But it's all about that self-talk. It's all about the queen speaking to herself to say, this is who I really am. You have to go back to that foundation. And I always tell everyone that I speak with, your number one foundation in order for you to be resilient is you got to have that spiritual foundation to start.
Yes.
If you don't have that, you're going to be lost. If you're looking at the world, if you're looking at other people, you don't know who's there. But you're absolutely right, Maria, when you talk about reinventing yourself. And I had to reinvent myself. Who am I? I would say I used to make scrambled eggs for everybody. I don't like my eggs scrambled. I like mine fried hard. But I didn't realize that because I had done it for so long for so many people. And I felt like Julia Roberts in Runaway Bride. I'm like, wait a minute, who am I? What do I need to do? And so what I say on that, as we start, finding your voice and then increasing it, is that there are parts of you that need to be buried. On Instagram, they're like, that version of me is expired. Figure that out and say, that's not who I am anymore. But at the same time, there are parts of you that you need to bless. You need to reinvigorate. You need to say, I love this about me. I love to dance. And so I'm going to go out and dance. I'm going to do these things. But then there are other things that you're going to need to bless others with, bestow them upon them. And you say, this is how I can serve and I can show up. So I really help you adjust your crown. Confidence is so important. But if you don't have it internally, you can't give it to anyone else. That's what I think.
That's so good. Y'all, Dr. Shante is a contributor for Amplify Her, and I'm putting my vote out. I need you to do an article on why am I scrambling eggs? Like, I promise you, I think it's going viral. Why am I scrambling eggs? I'm going to read it.
Yes.
That's so good. So we have a couple other. Oh, go ahead, Maria.
I want to say something because you really hit the nail on the head about inspiring. And I think as women, we forget that we're leaders in our own way. I mean, you don't have to be running a company, but whether it's your household, your community, wherever it's at. We have 2 important goals that are important, that we should be inspiring others for them to take action and aspiring others to also want to more or less emulate you, not exactly be like you, but emulate you. So we have a responsibility. Like you said, if we're scrambling eggs for everybody else and we're not doing it for ourselves, what example are we setting for those around us? So it really starts with the heart of who you are at the home. I echo that. It's a great conversation. Okay.
Yes. I love that.
Yes.
I love it. So we have Natushka, who's coming up next, and I would love to hear her insight. And what stands out to me from what you all just said too is knowing our identity. And one of those things that I like to do is recite verses like, who does God say I am? And I praise you because I am fearfully, wonderfully made. I am marvelous. And when you know those things and you remind yourself of those things, it's easy to show up. It's just so easy. So Natushka is another powerhouse that's going to help you. I'm just going to say, get your life, like get your whole life together when it comes to your business. So Natushka, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and what you do and what we can expect from you today?
Well, I am Natushka Voigt, Pastor Natushka Voigt. I am a business executive coach and a life coach, and I also teach operational systems. And I'm excited to hear everything that you ladies have shared because I am a firm believer in my method of coaching that you have to be balanced in every area, personally, professionally, and spiritually. And a lot of times we'll be excellent in one area and struggle in another as women, like the scrambling eggs. We're taking care of everybody, but we're not taking care of ourselves, burying that thing that, I call it unlearn what you learned, because you know what, there's a lot more to get in life. And in order for us to succeed as women in business, entrepreneurs, in your ministry, in your business, in your marriage, there's a lot of work that has to take place in ourselves. And that has to do with the way we think, our consistency, how we show up, how we nurture ourselves, who we love, the company we keep. All of those things are so essential for us to be balanced, because I can actually tell you for many years, I was great at business. I'm like a guru in the companies I've worked for and things like that. And then you struggled relationally with people, like you couldn't have a good relationship. And not to say that you have to have one, but if you are in one, your whole life should be balanced, and it requires work, and it starts with our mindset, the way we think. I think that's the hardest thing that we're able to get going, to be able to do what we need to do. We have to learn to think a certain way, be purposeful, apply it that way. It also matters the company we keep, because if we're around negative people, then we're just being fed negative things, right? Like fatty foods,
Yes.
right? If we don't take the bad things out of the cabinet, we're still eating the toxic things. So we have to be purposeful in what we're doing. And it's really, really important where we are and what we believe in. Where our faith is at, are we praying women? What do we believe in? What is the direction? Because you know what, we could shoot arrows all day long and we'll hit anything. The goal is to hit the thing that we're focused on, the things that we're going to go for in life. So that's a little bit of what
Yes, I'm telling y'all, slinging mics today, just dropping mics. Thank you to you, Ruth, too, for Psalm 139, for putting that there. So that's the wonderfully made verse. And Natushka, something that you said that's so powerful is the community. Like, who are we surrounding ourselves with? Are you listening to negative voices? Everyone yesterday fired the negative Nancy's. Like, we don't have time. We can't be the negative Nancy. We got to fire the negative Nancy. And so our next person is actually creating community. She is literally inspiring nations, and such a powerhouse with podcasting and getting your voice out. So welcome with me, our next speaker, Sonia Keeve. How are you doing today, Sonia?
Well, hello, beautiful queens. How are you? I'm so happy to be here this year.
Yeah, so can you tell us I forgot to ask a couple of people, where are you coming in from and what you're going to be focusing on today?
Yep, so I am coming in from Fredericksburg, Virginia, and I am a master podcast coach, podcaster, and author. And so I help women entrepreneurs really amplify their voice, build their message, and monetize their message. And so I teach them how to launch a podcast in just 30 days.
I love that. Okay, so we got pastor, podcaster, and this person is going to like propel you, stick with P, propel you into a life of of freedom. And so I have Nicole Smith coming up, who is another powerhouse. So Nicole, can you just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what we can expect from you?
Hi, Erica. Thank you so much for having me. So I am Nicole Smith, as Erica said, and I am joining you guys from Jacksonville, Florida. And my business is Navigate Your Freedom. And we've heard a lot already today about doing everything for everyone, but forgetting to take care of ourselves in the mix. And that is who I serve. I'm prior military, and I was working 12-hour shifts. I was married to another military member, all while raising a family. And with all of that and trying to be that hyperachiever that, was ingrained to always excel, always to do my absolute best, to thrive at work and have a successful career, all while being a great mother and a great wife and having to show up in all those capacities, I wound up hospitalized because I burnt out. And so that is who I work with and for, is other high-performing women who are in that space, and help them to truly find balance over burnout so that they can be free in their lives as well, to really just enjoy everything that is around them. And I am just loving this panel because they've hit already on so many of the synchronicities that are important. The clarity, the ownership, mindset, prioritization. And that's actually a lot of my framework that I use in my coaching. So happy to be here and to continue this conversation today.
I love it. And thank you for your service, Nicole. I feel like you and I have talked about our military connection. But I want to get into something even that you said, Nicole, and when you shared your story about like it almost feeling like we have the opportunity, we can get on the truck and like ride along, or we can get hit by the truck, and that moment is what, stops us and wakes us up. So I'm going to just kind of go around. We'll start with you, Nicole. What did you learn like in that moment of extreme burnout, or have any of you learned something yourself that you now apply to your business? Because we're talking about increasing our voice and showing up. And sometimes we can forget that there's a balanced approach to that. So Nicole, we'll start with you. Can you talk about maybe like the biggest lesson you've learned that you hope everyone else gets?
Oh, absolutely. So in that moment, in a breakout while I was in the hospital, the doctor that was actually treating me, they go through and they do their formal diagnosis, but he looked at me and he's like, Nicole, what you really suffered from is a broken heart. And having somebody see through like the mask or the facade, the superhuman, superwoman, facade that we try to carry, for somebody to see through that really allowed me to finally just show up as who I was meant to be, to start peeling back those layers and heal my heart, to heal my soul, and then to begin to show up. And what was really profound about that, and was really the whole, epicenter of what I do and how I coach, is in that what I learned is that if I take care of myself first, then I'm inviting those around me to take care of themselves. And then it becomes this ripple effect where we're all no longer just, trying to survive, but we're actually thriving. So when we're able to be the best of ourselves, everybody is getting the best, no longer just what is left over. So it becomes that, what did they say? You can't pour from an empty cup, right? So when you're pouring into your cup and you're filling yourself up and that begins to overflow, everybody feeds off the overflow. And so I just love that analogy. And that is really what I learned, is to pour into myself first and allow others to take advantage of what is flowing in excess.
That's good. And someone said that, put that superwoman cape in the cleaners. Like we have to fill ourselves up. I love that. I love it. I want to pass the mic to you, Sonia, because I have been blessed and honored to work alongside you and see the work that you're doing. And I know that you have gone through ebbs and flows. You've transitioned into your career and all of these things, and you've still continued to walk in your purpose, to show up for others. So what are your thoughts around finding that balance, and what's been like the words of wisdom that you have for others?
Yep. So for me, I experienced 3 corporate layoffs in my career. And when I thought about it, the corporate layoffs all happened each 7 years apart. And so there was something very significant about that number 7, because 7 is a number of completion. I am a child of God, and I walk by faith and not by sight. And after the third layoff that happened, I recognized that, number one, corporate America was really never set up for women to really thrive. It was always created by men, really for men. But as women, we were coming into the space and we were showing up even more brilliantly than they gave us credit for. And so for a very long time, I felt like, well, should I be doing more? Should I be operating more? What I was always told I was missing something, until I finally realized, kind of, God really revealed to me that, you've been trying to fit into a box that you were never meant to be in. And so he gave me the opportunity to inspire a nation, because he showed me that you are bigger than you think you are. You're stronger than you think you are. And there was nothing ever missing from your life. You just hadn't really stepped into the true calling that you were supposed to have. And so truly, after the third layoff, I truly surrendered everything to God. And I said, okay, Lord, what is it that you really want me to do? And so with the support of my family, they said, listen, why don't you go ahead and start your own business? Now, I just recently celebrated in July my 51st birthday. And so my husband reminded me, he said, when you and I were dating, I was 19 and he was 20. He said to me, your one wish you said you had is that you didn't want to work in corporate America by the time you were 50, that you wanted to have your own business.
Wow.
And he said, and now not only have you become a full-time entrepreneur, you have become an international podcaster, an international author, and now you are inspiring a nation through your podcast show, Inspiring Nations. And he said, you are truly walking into the calling and fulfillment that God always had for you. He said, you were never meant to be in corporate America, but I took the skill sets that I learned from corporate America and I built this incredible business. And now and I remember in the midst of the layoff, let me tell you something, it wasn't easy. There were tears. I was crying. There was a lot that I went through. So I want people to understand that being a full-time entrepreneur is not this glamorous thing. I was kind of thrusted into that after after corporate America, like I like to say, divorced me. After
Yes.
they divorced me, I stepped into something that I didn't even know I was even equipped for. And now that I've done that, I didn't realize the impact that my life is having, how I continue to show up. And I said to somebody one day, I said, you've ever been so broke and happy at the same time? There's something in that, because it was like many of us are living a life that we think other people said that we should. But I tell people, but if there's something in your spirit that is keeping you up at night, telling you and unctioning you to do something more, that is the thing that you're supposed to step into. So you need to listen to those promptings, because there's a reason why that is happening. And so when you stop and get still, you start to get clarity and start opening your mouth. And so that's why this microphone is so powerful for each of us, because we all have a message that the world needs to hear. The only thing that you need to do is open up your mouth, share your message with the world, and watch you inspire a nation.
I love it. So I'm going to ask Natushka the same question. Before we go to Natushka, we have two other speakers that we're going to bring up. We have Diane and Kelly. So I'm going to bring Diane and Kelly up. Y'all, this is good. That was a whole mic drop. Sonia said, listen, and you too will inspire that nation. I love it. So I want to, we're going to do a quick intro. I would love to hear from you first, Diane, because I know that you have I believe a very needed message that sometimes a lot of people shy away from, but we're experiencing these things. So can you just tell us a little bit about what you do and where you're coming in from?
Okay, so hi everyone. So I'm from Maryland in the States. My family's Nigerian and I'm living in Thailand right now. I've been here a few years and my area of focus, I'm a wellness consultant, and one of my areas is grief. And for me, it's kind of identifying how it shows up in your life, because there are actually different kinds of grief, if that makes any sense. Like in the past year, like the group sessions I've had, especially, we really learned how grief can be from death. It can be just from big changes. It can be from different kinds of breakups, and identifying it in your life. and then how to move through it holistically, because I feel like in a lot of societies, it's something just kind of swept under the rug. But no, like it needs to be brought to the light so you can do something with it, have some awareness, some knowledge of it. So yeah, this is something that
I love that. Yes. And I love that you talked about it not just being what we tend to think grief is, because we've had women already share losing jobs, going through heartbreak, heartache, and those things. So Kelly, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and what we can expect to hear from you today?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am Kelly, and I am actually tuning in from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, here in the States. So what I do is I am actually a copywriter and a relationship marketer. We're kind of on the edge of the coaching thing, but what I do is I help people build relationships, whether that's through words, whether that's through, face-to-face stuff. That's what I do. Is I literally am like, cool, how are we building relationships? Because in the world of marketing, we get so many messages thrown at us from all directions all the time, that really building relationships with people is really the only way we can move forward. So that's what I do.
I love that. So, and I'm going to bring Maria and Latoya back up. And let's go to you, Natushka. So we have been talking about sometimes, and I'm going to kind of like expand that answer, because sometimes the area that we are meant to speak in is the area that we're challenged in the most, like the thing we had to overcome. That's how we're showing up for others. So have you had an experience, Natushka, that was a challenge for you, but you're now able to reach back and help other people in that area? And what's your advice around that?
Well, I think I've always been a person that was, I always spoke at my jobs, places that I was. I think what happened to me the day that the Lord told me I was going to be a pastor, that was a different forum for me to speak. So my thing is, what happened with me is I had to, it's one thing when you're told that you have this gift, you have this talent, because your gifts and talents will make room for you, right? But if you don't have the confidence, it's one thing to trust, but it's another thing to trust what you've been given. Trust that you are able to do it. So what I struggled with for a while is being able, I knew I could speak in the secular world, but I had trouble speaking to the church. Now, why is that? Because there's something in you that has to be confident. It's one thing to be given a calling. It's another thing to actually answer it. And to answer that, you got to answer it with confidence, right? So that was the thing that I struggled with the most. And I had to, as I mentioned before, I had to unlearn a lot of things. I had to also work on my wellness. I had to work on loving myself. I had to work on healing. And then life is happening. Like this young lady had mentioned, Diane, she mentioned grief. Grief happened. I experienced the loss of my significant other while in the process of going through and building a business and helping other people. One of the things that was the greatest thing for me, and I'm a person that likes to serve, no matter what's going on with someone, I show up. And that is such a healing for me. But I also had to learn in that process of showing up, you have to know when to stop too. You have to know how much to help, when it's God sending you to help, and when it's just yourself, and then you burn out, you experience a lot of things. So I was faced with a lot of different challenges, and I had to do the work. I had to be able to be comfortable to speak in all forums, because you're given a gift, right? And that gift has to show up in places, right? You got to put that gift to work. But if you have a gift and you don't believe that you're worthy of the gift, or you don't believe that you can deliver the gift, then there's an issue there. It has to all line up. It's got to come in alignment so it can work. I hope that answered your question.
Yes. And it gives me like a segue, because this is something that I feel like we see all the time. And it's talking about imposter syndrome, or feeling like you're not good enough. And I love what Latoya said there. When you're different, sometimes you don't see the millions of people who accept you for what you are. All you notice is the person who doesn't, where we just start focusing on who might not appreciate us, or who are the haters, or who doesn't want to see us. So I would love for anyone that would like to jump in with this whole concept of imposter syndrome, or not feeling good enough to show up in the element that you're called to show up at. Who would like to take that on? Okay, go ahead, Latoya.
Okay. When I first started my company, I was in Philadelphia, and it was because I was denied a few things during when I was at a casting call. And so I started my company and then got married, had children. Is that me getting feedback? Oh, hello. Can y'all hear me? Okay. So then I had to figure out how to, I was thriving in Philadelphia. And so when I got married, I had to figure out how to do that in Jacksonville, North Carolina. Majority of the time when I say Jacksonville, everyone that I know and that has worked and that I work with was like, oh yeah, Florida. And I'm like, no, North Carolina. And so it was something that it was so hard trying to bring out of all things fashion to one of the biggest marine bases on the East Coast. And one of the news reporters actually put in an article one year, bringing high heels and fashion to an area who only knows combat boots. And it stuck to me because it was, it's been 11 years. I've been doing this for 11 years. I'm going into my 11th season. And sometimes you're doing all of this stuff and you don't even really take a step to look back or look at where you come from. And until someone said something. And I had someone actually come up to me and say, you have paved the way for so many in this area. One of the things, it was a few things a few people have mentioned to me, and I never even realized that I did that. I paved the way. I was one of the youngest female minorities who received over 20 grand in funding from that particular city and still do. And I never thought about it like that. I just was like, well, I was, when God told me to go there and tell him what I was doing, I was just very confident in what I was doing. I didn't even think twice about it. I didn't go in there to be the first. I just went in there to say, this is what I'm doing. Do y'all want to be a part of it or not? And so a lot of times I think that imposter syndrome happens when you're listening to all of these people who wish that they could do it or thought that they could do it or had a dream to do it and never did it. And I say all of that to say, when I did go in that office, I had over 20 people tell me not to go in that office because they do not support Black people. They do not support Black events. They do not support outsiders. And I was considered an outsider because I'm a military spouse. So we're transit. We're not going to stay there forever. And so I looked at some of those people and I was like, what does my color or my gender have to do with a city coming out to support an event? And just because I'm Black doesn't mean it has to be a Black event. And so I was like, you know what? I'm not going to listen to these people. And I did what God told me to do. And God told me to go in that office and tell them what I'm doing in this city and let them know that I want them to participate. And I didn't go in there thinking that they were going to cut a check. I didn't even know that they do that. But the point is, I listened and I did what God told me to do. I didn't listen to the naysayers. I didn't listen to the people who were, putting all of that in my head, telling me, don't go to that office. I don't know why you're talking, why you want to meet with the city, why you want to meet with the county, why you want to do this. You get these people in your ear and sometimes it sounds great because you're like, well, why am I meeting with them? Because God told me to. And that's what you need to listen to. Because if I would have listened to those people, I would not be where I am today. I would not have the support that I have. I would not be getting checks from the city and county every year to produce an event from all the way here in Japan. So, it's sometimes we have to just let go of those people who just always have something to say because they were scared to take the next step. And when we let that go, I think that's when we allow our inner voice and God to do what is necessary and do what is supposed to be done.
That's so good. Yes, I want to bring Sonia up in a second because I see her like, yes, I got something. Diane, do you want to jump in? I see like a lot of heads nodding. I don't even know who to go next. Diane, do you have some thoughts around what LaToya just said?
Okay, so thank you so much for sharing. That is, I think, a really big part of imposter syndrome, all the different voices coming at you, and then also being in situations where you are an outsider. Like for you being in Japan, I have maybe a similar experience since I'm in Thailand. And these things just really, they can get in your head and make you feel like there's no possible way you could accomplish something. And it really takes effort to push through it. And, you know, having some kind of faith also that things are going to work out, and you're aiming for better, you're aiming for higher, you're just aiming for different, you know? So I really liked listening to that. It's something encouraging.
I love that. And I would love to hear from you too, Kelly, because I feel like you just spoke a whole word, LaToya, about the labels. And sometimes people can have us so scared to do something. Like, you're a woman, you can't do this. You're this ethnicity, you can't do this. You have this amount of experience, you're this age, all of these things. And we still have to show up if we know that's what we're called to. So I know Kelly has shared, like, we have to walk in faith. What are some of your thoughts around that, especially with you helping people with relationships, the marketing, jumping into their email inboxes? What are your thoughts around that?
I mean, I think this is one of those things that is key for success, because there are always going to be people who are going to tell you that you can't do it. And there's always going to be people who, I'm worried for you, or, you know, you're not as successful, or I'm not as successful as you, so I don't want you to be successful because then it looks bad on me. And at the end of the day, that has nothing to do with you. That is their own inner work that needs to be happening. And so, you know, I tell people all the time, I'm like, cool, you can have your thoughts. And yes, sometimes we get that in our head, and we have to be very careful and intentional with the thoughts that we let in and let manifest. But also, like, you know, I was telling somebody recently, I'm like, well, maybe I'm going to be really successful soon. And for those who don't know, we're adding a baby to our house in October. And I'm like, this is not the best timing in the world. And this is also God's timing. So I have no choice in the matter. And at the end of the day, I said, this just feels really hard. And a friend of mine said, cool, so what are you going to do? And I said, what do you mean? She goes, if it's hard, what are you going to do? Like, you've done hard things before. And I said, yeah, we'll figure it out. She goes, yeah, everything is figure outable. And when those people come at you and they're like, you can't do this because of whatever reason, or you can't do this because you're a woman, or you're Black, or you're, you know, the little white girl, or whatever. Yes, you can. And here's the thing. I always tell my kids, my two older boys are both Boy Scouts, and from camping with them, we have a phrase that's, but did you die? Because we went to camp one summer with one of their friends, and everything that this poor kid did, he was like, I can't do this. I can't breathe. I'm going to freak out. I'm going to pass out. I'm going to die. And I was like, Ethan, you're not going to die. It's going to be okay, buddy. I promise. And that has become a house motto, because my kids have both started, the two older ones have both started their own business because they saw mom doing it. And what's funny is when they get to a point where they're like, this feels really scary. It feels scary to put out flyers. This feels scary to put myself out there, or to go, you know, to a community coffee or something when I'm the youngest one there. And I'm like, cool, I have a question for you when you're done. The question is always, but did you die? And my kids know, they'll be like, I didn't die, but I had flashbacks and I thought it was really bad. And then afterwards, they've always come back to me and said, thanks for making me do that, Mom. That was really hard. And it was the next right step.
That's so good. That's so good, Kelly, because one of the things too that I just got from what you said, LaToya was saying earlier, like, you may not be, even if you're not reaching millions of people, our family's watching, kids are watching, you look like someone and they're seeing themselves in you. So every time we show up, when we're talking about increasing our voice, you just don't know who's going to resonate. And I want to ask you this, Maria, I'm going to pass the mic to you next, because you help people find love, and you went through your own experience as a widow in an area that was challenged, and you still show up and you shared, like, how people have asked you the question, like, well, how do you do it? Like, how do you do it? And my other question for you is, how have you found the fountain of youth as well? But can you talk to us about that?
Well, first of all, Kelly was talking about, you know, either you're you're too young or too. I'm the oldest one in the group, so I will tell you that I'm in my later 60s, and I have to tell you, you have to get to a point in life where, and you all are talking about this, you're finding your purpose, you're finding your passion, because God gave you another day. He gave you another day because somebody needs you. And whether it's one person or millions of people, that's the key thing. And whether you step out on a platform, I decided to talk about dating when? And to talk to people about getting out during COVID, worst time possible. I created a course on how to officiate weddings during COVID. People were afraid. And I also started my podcast, like Sonia's talking, during COVID as well. But you know what? I took the step, and I was afraid. I was definitely afraid. So, you just have to take those steps getting back out there. And when it comes to finding love, you know what? There are 8 billion people on the planet. You can't tell me there isn't somebody for you. I'm still looking. I'm looking for my next great love, and I know it's there, and I'm 68. So, it's a matter of just really putting yourself out there. And you're going to get people that will actually make you feel insecure. We talk about confidence. And that is, like I said, again, you've got to build your love tribe. That's the key thing. When you have your love tribe around you, when you walk into a situation, whether it's imposter syndrome, meeting somebody, you know that there are people there that support you. And that's what you need, is your village. You can't do it alone. I don't care what anybody says. So definitely reach out to people that can help you.
Y'all, I'm going to give you another name, Mic Drop Maria, because that's a mic drop. And I've been hearing that from several people that's been on the panel. You can't do it alone. Get around the right people. Ruth shared being a part of Girl Power Alliance and how that's helped her. April shared yesterday, who is running 3 successful businesses out of Vegas. There's something about that Vegas. I need to rub elbows with y'all. But, successfully by embracing her village. And I would love for you to share, Dr. Shante, what are some of your thoughts around that? Like just getting who you're surrounding yourself with in that circle when it comes to, and then after Dr. Shante, Sonia, just jump on in because I feel like you have something to share on this topic too.
Well, let me say first, you made me want to put my crown on to begin with, because as we were talking about that imposter syndrome, of course, I told you, I always have my crown ready. You guys don't believe me. I always have a crown ready. Because sometimes you have to show up, all the time, you have to show up for yourself. That imposter syndrome can be because others are telling you something, but sometimes it's internal. And very personally, I wanted to share this. And that's why I was waving my hand going, you got to know this. I experienced, I was asking the Lord, what is the blockage in my business? Why am I not seeing the people that I need to see? I know you created me for this, but what's going on? What am I missing? And when the Lord wakes you up the next morning with the answer, that's serious. And what he said to me is what I want to share with everybody that's either on this panel as well as those that are listening, is he said to me, you don't recognize the oil that you carry. You don't recognize the weight of what you have, the experiences that you have gone through, the education that you have had, the opportunities that have been presented before you. Others have not done that. I was looking at, and I'm going, well, I can't do what they were doing, and why am I not here? And he was like, you got an engineering degree. I mean, I tell my clients, I don't quite have as many degrees as a thermometer, but I'm getting close. I'm an avid learner. I mean, if you looked at my resume, you're like, electrical engineering, bachelor's and master's. You're looking at PhD in theology. So there's a bachelor's, master's, and PhD in theology, a bachelor's in Christian counseling. And I'm like, I got all these degrees, but then I've got the life experience that went with it. I lost my middle daughter at 3 days before her 11th birthday. It's now been 18 years. When we talk about grief, I've been there. When you look at a marriage that was just 1 month shy of 30 years before the divorce was final, and we dated for 6 years before we got married, that's most of my life. It is like, that's grief. You're up in the middle of the night crying because you're like, this life is unraveling before me. It does not look like what I expected. I wanted the soul food movie. I wanted the matriarch. I wanted sitting around the table. I wanted all of that. Family was everything. And then you look at the leadership positions that I had an opportunity to be in, and I'm going, but, and he's going, no, you bore those crosses and I gave them to you so that you can guide somebody else through. So don't discount what you have. You cannot. Too many people are waiting. You are waiting. So imposter, no, you are the real gem. You are the queen. Show up. You got to know that when you walk into a room that you're supposed to be there. When you recognize that, you become the thermostat. You're not taking somebody else's temperature. You're not worrying about what they're doing. You set the pace when you walk in the room. And from that moment, it was like, all right, I need to do an assessment. What have I done? What are my experiences? What does my education say? This is who I am. And when you show up authentically, the right people will follow you because they're looking for you. They're waiting on you. So yeah, I'm sorry. I just had to put my crown on that one. Okay, I'm done.
Do not say I'm sorry because that was so good.
Oh
that
my
was
God.
good. And something that you said, a lot of times we say people are waiting on you. Dr. Shante said, no, you are waiting on you. Too often we discount the fact that even we ourselves are waiting for ourselves to show up. So Sonia's going to jump through the screen. I want to pass the mic to you, Sonia. And we're getting close to wrapping. So we're going to do our round. We're going to make sure everyone shares, like, what's that word of wisdom that stood out to you for today that you hope everyone walks away with? And we'll start with you, Sonia.
Well, first, I just want to add to what Dr. Shante and Latoya said about this whole imposter syndrome. After this conference, I need you all to reframe the perspective of that term because we don't have imposter syndrome. Remember, everybody who's been ever successful in life, they had to learn it. They weren't born with it. They didn't have the skill sets for it. They had to learn it. And Dr. Nelson Mandela says, we never lose. We either win or we learn. And so anything that you do in life, you are going to have to learn. Somebody's going to have to teach you. You have to get a coach, whatever that thing is. We are not imposters. We are original created beings set by God for a purpose for such a time as this. As Dr. Shante said, you have to have the confidence that when you walk into any room you step into, you set the very atmosphere for how everything's going to go from the point that you open your mouth to you leave that room. So, you know, that whole idea of imposter syndrome has been a trap of the enemy to get women to think we're less than. We're not. We have everything and been equipped for everything. Our life is content. How we live our experiences create the type of life that we want. So you just have to step into that thing you know you're supposed to do and walk in it. So from this point on, let's stop talking about us having the imposter syndrome. We're not imposters. We're original. We just have to learn what we don't know and then teach what we do.
To that. So Sonia, can you tell us, for those that want to get connected with you, they want to support what you're doing, they're ready to take off running and launch that podcast in 30 days. What's the best next step?
Yes, so the next best step, you can reach me on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Sonia Keeve, or go to my website at soniakeeve.com. And I just published my brand new book called Beyond the Mic, the Game-Changing Guide to Podcasting. So you can pre-order your copy for that today. And of course, if you're in the area or want to come to Virginia, come to Podcasters Rock, October 27th and 28th. My MC is the amazing Erica Latrice, and it is time for you ladies to amplify your voice, monetize your message, and maximize your reach with podcasting in 2023.
Yes, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Sonia. So I'm going to pass the mic down to Diane. And I love that Dr. Shante kind of started touching on this too, where we have to show up in spite of, you know, what we've gone through, show up in spite of that. And I feel like you embody that as well, Diane. So what's been your biggest takeaway of wisdom, and how can we get connected and support you?
Thank you so much. So this has been amazing to listen to. Just strong women, strong stories, and just these things that shape your lives and then the reasons why you even go into what you're doing. Like, it's been a very inspiring past hour. Yeah. So as far as what I do and how to reach me, so in working with grief, I work with individuals and with groups. I have my website where I have different kinds of services. For me, it's more about grief support. The thing about grief is that, first off, you have to be comfortable in talking about it. It takes a certain amount of vulnerability. And then another thing is being ready to dive into it. I wouldn't say soul crushing, but it really involves your soul and being ready to bear it. So yeah, I just offer support. It's you doing the work at the end of the day. I'm just here to support. But yeah, that is what I offer. My website is here in my little box. Thank you.
I love it. Diane said, you don't have to go searching for me online. Just read the screen. And I love that from a marketing perspective. I feel like me and LaToya are clapping for you with that. So I'm going to swing the mic back up to Nicole. Nicole, what's that biggest wisdom takeaway that you want us to have, and how can we get connected and support what you're doing?
Oh my goodness. Just really quick, if I may, with what Dr. Shantae and even Sonia were saying in regards to the imposter aspect. I mean, you guys spoke into so many different things, and I just want to share with this is that there are 8 billion people on this planet. And when we go through those experiences that God has taken us through, our trials, our tribulations, our successes, and everything, we were meant to go through that for a reason, because we are meant to share our story. We are meant to impact those lives, and we're not meant to impact all of those 8 billion people. So when we're talking about imposter syndrome, what is happening is we're the imposters in our own lives. We have taken a background role in our own movie, and we're letting others dictate it. So when we try to, I guess you could say, compare ourselves to the highlight reels of somebody else's story rather than the be real, that's where the mess begins. You've got to stop comparing yourself to other successes. And as Shantae was saying, start remembering the queen within, start remembering all of your own successes. Those are a lot of the things that I talk and work with my own clients, is you've got to learn that clarity, right? Like remembering who it is, who you are. But we talk about ownership, taking ownership of all of the successes, taking ownership over all of the trials and tribulations and all of those things, because that is our story. And our story is what is meant to go out and impact the ones that the Lord is bringing to us to impact. We've got to stop thinking that, the market is saturated, or, Shantae is speaking about this, so she's going to, she'll reach those people and I'm going to miss out. Or Miss Sonia with her podcast, she's like killing it. I can't even dare go out and be a podcaster or things like that. You've got to let that go. There are so many people that are out there that are needing your message. And when you allow yourself to show up and embrace who you are, then you will be impacting the lives of those that are needing your story. And so I'm just so fired up on that. And I just needed to share that component. And when it comes to Navigate Your Freedom, that is my business right there. It's in my name. Navigate Your Freedom is where you can find me on most social platforms. But I do have a free gift. I'll drop it in the comments. And that is my How to Become a Free Woman Starter Kit, so that you can start taking ownership of your life, let go of the imposter syndrome, let go of your inner critics, and step into that main role in your life and stop being the background character.
Y'all, this panel is on fire. I feel like y'all just got ignited this morning. Nicole, you said something that's so good. I'm putting out all the t-shirts so I can circle back. I'll give y'all commission though. We'll do a 50-50 split.
Sweet.
You said, forget the highlight reel, be real. Like that's a whole movement right there, because that was so good. Like that's where a lot of the comparisons are rooted, and we're seeing the highlight reel. Yep. But sis said, be real. I love that, Nicole. All right.
Thank you.
So we're going to this is so hard to even wrap this session because y'all are some nugget droppers. Let's swing it down to Kelly. Kelly, what's been your biggest takeaway? And how can we get connected with you and support what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So my biggest takeaway is, at the end of the day, guys, it's not about you. It's not about how you feel and what other people are saying about you. You're here to serve others, whatever the experiences that you're having those experiences so you can guide someone else through those experiences. And so, with the relationship building, with all of that, you are here to serve. And I'm a big proponent of servant leadership, but I think my key takeaway is like, you have to keep moving forward. Like we were just talking about, and she had just said, we compare ourselves with social media, but every single thing that's out on the internet is curated in some way, shape, or form. That is 100%. We have to be ourselves, and we have to be the purest and most authentic form of ourselves, because at the end of the day, our people are going to come to us. They're going to notice who we are and what we stand for and our core values and all of those things. And they're going to be the people that we were meant to serve. And so you just have to keep your light shining bright, even when it's hard. You're all going to have hard days. And so we just have to keep going, keep finding the next right step. And you guys can get in, forgot something. You can get in, you can go to kellyharriscreative.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. Absolutely. Schedule a coffee chat, or if you're wanting emails or you're ready to talk about marketing, I have a VIP marketing day where we go through and we just look at all of your marketing and come up with action steps and a social media guide. And if you're interested, also email. So you could actually have everything planned out nice and pretty with a packet and a bow, all the things. So that's all I have to do.
I love it. Okay. Thank you, Kelly. So Maria, if you're ready too, I'll bring you back up. I'm going to swing it up to Dr. Shantae. Can you tell us your biggest takeaway and how we can support what you're doing?
Yes, we have said so many wonderful things here today. I forgot to tell you guys that I'm in Florida. So I will say the biggest thing is we need to have that palm tree anointing. You bend, but you don't break. And you keep moving forward. So yes, you can get in touch with me. I'm on all social media, but what I'd like to just invite everyone to participate in is I have an event next Tuesday. It's called Crowned, Unleash Your Inner Queen. And I will drop that information in the chat. But if you'd like to get in touch with me, always on my website, ShantaeHaynes.com. And I offer you a vision breakthrough strategy session if you're not able to come to that event. But I'd love for you to have that. Be there.
Okay. I have the delay going on with the meeting, so we're just going to keep going around. So next up, we'll have Natushka, and then Maria, if you can jump in after Natushka, and then we'll round it out with Latoya. So Natushka, let us know what's been that biggest takeaway. I want to hear from everyone, your biggest takeaway, and how can we support what you're doing?
I think my biggest takeaway is, knowing your worth and owning it. Owning it, because what it does is it elevates you to the next level of what you're supposed to be doing, and scaling your vision, scaling your business, scaling your relationships, and things of that nature. So you can find me. My name is not easy. You see it on in the square there, but it's natushkaspeaks.com. That's my website. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. It's also called Natushka Speaks. We have an event coming up in September. It's called Scaling Your Vision. How do you take your 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. gig and make it your primary business, and being able to get it going within a 3-month period. So I think one of the things that can help us grow and also can also hinder us is if we don't own our things. Everything that happens to us for a reason. One, to serve others and help us to grow. Go through the process. Allow yourself to elevate and become who you're supposed to be. Know that you're amazing. Wear that crown. Straighten the crown on another woman. Be who God created you to be. You are here on purpose. There is a purpose, and it needs to come to fruition. And in order for it to come to fruition, it has to start here and here. And you have to own it. You have to have the confidence and go forward what you have, knowing that you are worth it, and making sure other women know that they're worth it, and everything else will fall into place.
Okay. Here she go.
Yes. Sorry. It's like a delay of coming up. All right. So thank you. Now, Maria, did you get a chance to share?
No, I didn't get a chance. I was really, I'm
All right.
telling you, I'm so fascinated because, when you step into a virtual room or in person, there's always something that I learn, and I'm fascinated when, especially women come forward. So I think that's the key thing. The best thing is, I'm just going to say, my takeaway is love yourself from roots to boots. Remember that. That's so important. I do have a couple of different offers. If you're looking to maybe become a wedding officiant, I have a 4-step guide on my website that is free. Download it. You can also connect with me, because you know what? Somebody needs to hear who you are. And one of the best things is, listen to what Sonia said. Start a podcast. Had I not started it when I did, I had the opportunity to interview. If you've ever heard of David Tutera, I'm now invited to speak as his guest in the Cayman Islands. He's a big wedding planner person. Put your voice out there. You never know. You never know who you're going to meet. Don't miss an opportunity. It's when you don't. It was a pleasure.
Yes, that's so good. And can you tell us again, Maria? I know you put it in the comments, but how can we, your
Sure.
website,
It's
support you?
True Love Knots, TrueLoveKnots.com. I'm on every social media platform, including Threads. So just a new one. And also I do speak, MariaRomanoSpeaking.com. I speak about the power of loving your way to the top. But most importantly, really go through the world, loving yourself and loving others. I want to thank you so much.
I love it. Thank you so much, Maria. All right. So I was over here battling tech. So I'm like, wait, did everyone get to share? And finally, Latoya, can you just let us know your biggest takeaway from today and how we can get in touch with you?
My biggest takeaway from today, I will have to go with an animal story. My kids love animals, and so I learned the craziest facts about animals through my children. And one of the craziest facts I learned was a snake. And what I didn't know was, because there's some really crazy snakes out here, and so we were trying to learn all about these snakes. And what I didn't know was, because one of the kids tried to capture one, and so they said, you can't put it in this little tank or whatever because it won't grow. And that a snake grows based on its environment. And so I thought that was really deep. Like, a snake grows based on its environment. So if he's in this little tank, he's not going to grow. And so that really stuck with me. And so it just made me think about everything that we talked about here: imposter syndrome, just putting yourself out there and, trying different things, networking with different circles. And to me, it goes back to that. Like, who is your environment big enough for you to grow? And I think that's a question that I think we should ask ourselves. Is our environment big enough for us to grow? Or are we keeping ourselves trapped in this miniature circle of people who we already know are not supporting us, already know this is not, God didn't design our business to just cater to this little circle of people. And so I challenge everyone to ask yourself this question: is my environment big enough for me to grow? And just get out there, try different things, try new things, learn, network with new people. You'd be surprised, like Maria said, you'd be surprised who you run into, who you network with. I definitely know who David is. I know who David is. I mean, he is huge. So congratulations to that. And so just get out there and do what you need to do. Get out there and meet new people. Don't be afraid to say hello. Don't be afraid to pass out your card. You just never know who you'll run into, and what that encounter will lead to. And so you can find me on The Real Latoya Scott, pretty much on all social media, except for my Facebook. When Facebook gave me my blue check mark a few years ago, I could not change that to The Real Latoya Scott. So that one is like Latoya Scott 589 or something like that. But you still type in Latoya Scott because it has a blue check mark, I'll pop up. So that is that one. But my website is thereallatoyascott.com. My company is Final Touch Models. So either one you type in, you will find me. And you can Google me as well. That will pop up too. So this has been a pleasure. I love every minute of this. And I'm probably going to watch this twice as well. Just like the other days. Hold on, you on mute? Oh, there you go.
Okay, yeah, and they're like muted, y'all. I'm back here. I feel well. Never mind. I won't tell you who I feel like, but I'm fighting this technology to get here. But Latoya, I so agree with you. Like just going back and rewatching, and getting all the nuggets again. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone. Just like going back through Dr. Shante Haynes, the powerhouse Latoya Scott, powerful Pastor Natushka, Queen Dr. Shante. Since I'm throwing the adjectives in there. Another person who was just dropping nuggets like crazy, Nicole Smith, Diane, Kelly, Maria. This has been such an incredible panel. I want to tell everyone that's watching right now, one of the best ways that you can support, if you got a takeaway from this message, drop it in the comments. If you want to be able to go back and watch the replays and have them all nice and consolidated in an easy to follow way, go to amplifyhermovement.com and you can get all the behind the scenes. We have our magazine coming out tomorrow during the event, and behind the scenes talks, so much interviews. You definitely want to get all the additional resources for this event. And if you know that you have a powerful story and you're ready to step on stage and keep stepping on stage and never step off, then you need to be in the Amplify Her Inner Circle. You can get in there by going to increaseyourvoice.com. That's where you can grab your starter kit. Literally $27. And I actually had someone ask me, they're like, oh my gosh, Erica, is the starter kit really $27? Like, how are you doing that? But I remember, and I'll tell y'all this really briefly. There was a time where there was a membership that I wanted and it was $19 and I didn't have it at the time. And I was like, geez, if only I could brainstorm a way to earn $19 and then do it again, like consistently, because it was a monthly membership. And so I've learned that when we come together, when we collaborate, so much can happen. And that's why we created the starter kit in that way, because you can elevate, you can grow, you can become, the highest ticket person and Amplify Her. But at minimum, I believe you have a message and I believe it's powerful. And so get in the inner circle so that you can step on stage at our upcoming events. You can get features in the magazine. You can be a contributor on our blog. And you also can have your own show on the Amplify Her Network when you join the VIP Loft. So all those things are available. You see it scrolling, increaseyourvoice.com. I hope that this panel encouraged you as much as it encouraged me. And we have another session coming up at 2 Eastern. So I'm probably going to go take a nap or something in between so I can be really locked in. Y'all set your alarms, come back at 2 Eastern. And again, thank you to everyone that just dropped some powerful nuggets on today's panel. I will see y'all in the next session. Take care.